She was always there, every night. Every night, exactly at 11:08 p.m., the woman came. She didn't knock. She didn't speak. She just walked slowly from the end of the street and lay down on the footpath in front of the small shop. Same time, same spot, every single night. The shop belonged to a quiet man named Armin. He had been running this small electronics shop for over 5 years. It wasn't anything special, just a few old fans, used phones, and second-hand chargers. Life was slow and boring, just the way he liked it, until she came. The first night he saw her, he thought she was homeless. She wore a long gray coat with a hood. Her face was hidden. She didn't ask for money or food. She just lay down near the shutter and closed her eyes like it was her home. Armin didn't bother her. But she returned the next night. And the next. And the next. For the first few nights, Armin thought it was just bad luck. Maybe she had nowhere else to go. But something about her made him feel strange. She moved too slowly, like her body didn't fully understand how to walk. She never shivered, even when the cold wind blew. And she never blinked when she looked into the security camera. Yes, he had checked the CCTV. One night, he stayed up and watched her through the camera in real time. At 11:08, she appeared again, walking like a shadow, slow and silent. She looked up directly into the lens, and for the first time, she smiled. A cold chill ran down Armin's spine. The next morning, he checked the footage. Something was off. The timestamp on the camera glitched. From 11:08 to 11:10, the screen was filled with static. The lights in the shop had flickered at the same time, even though there was no power cut in the area. He asked the neighbors if they had seen her. The old tea seller next door said, "She's been doing this for weeks, maybe more." I stopped asking questions. You should too. Armin didn't like mysteries, but now he couldn't ignore it. One evening, he decided to confront her. He waited behind the half-closed shutter, eyes on the clock. 11:07. 11:08. There she was, just like always. She stepped out of the darkness and stood quietly in front of the shop. Slowly, she sat down, then lay flat on the ground, like she was going to sleep. Armin opened the shutter just a little and said, "Hey, are you okay? Do you need help?" No answer. He stepped out, trying to see her face clearly. "Miss, can you hear me?" Still nothing. She didn't even flinch. Her breathing was soft, but steady. Armin bent down a little, trying to get a better look at her face. That's when he saw her eyes. They were open and glowing faintly, like a soft blue light was shining inside them. Armin stepped back, heart racing. He blinked. Her eyes were closed again. Was he imagining things? He rushed back inside and locked the shutter. That night, he didn't sleep. The next morning, something stranger happened. His phone wouldn't charge. The fans stopped spinning for a few seconds. The old radio on the shelf turned on by itself, playing static. He checked the CCTV again. Same thing. At exactly 11:08 p.m., the screen showed static for 2 minutes. When the video returned, the woman was already lying down. This time, something new appeared. Her hand moved slightly and touched the shutter. The metal turned black for a second, as if burned, then returned to normal. Armin was terrified, but he was also curious. Who was she? Why his shop? And how could a simple touch do something like that? He began to write down the time and day each time she arrived. He started keeping a journal. Every entry was the same. She came at 11:08 p.m. She lay down. She said nothing, but the lights flickered again. He started to notice more details. Her coat never looked dirty, even though she slept on the street. Dogs never barked near her. Insects avoided her completely. One night, a drunk man tried to talk to her. He stumbled close, laughing loudly. The next second, he fell, like something pushed him back. He ran away without looking back. She didn't even move. Was she human or something else? Armin knew he couldn't go on like this. He had to do something. He had to speak to her again. Or maybe open the door and let her in. But something deep inside warned him. Once the door opens, nothing will be the same. That night, he stood behind the shutter, hand on the lock, heart beating fast. 11:06 p.m. The street was silent. 11:07 p.m. The lights flickered. 11:08 p.m. She arrived. She looked up and smiled again. Armin heard her voice for the first time, but her lips never moved. It started with a dream. A dark, empty street. Wind blowing dust in circles. His shop stood alone, lights flickering. And in front of it, the woman, lying still. Then suddenly, she was standing. No movement, no transition, just standing. She looked at him and said 3 soft words. "Please help me." Her voice was not like a human's. It was calm, echoing, almost like it was coming from inside his own head. Armin woke up with a start. His shirt was damp with sweat. The room was freezing cold, even though it was summer. He looked around. No one. He checked the time. 3:13 a.m. And then he heard it again. Faint. Just a whisper. "Please, help me." The next day, Armin tried to ignore it. Maybe it was just a dream. Maybe he was thinking too much. But deep inside, something had changed. That day, the air around the shop felt heavier, as if something invisible was watching. He didn't open the shop. Instead, he waited, sat near the shutter with the CCTV monitor in front of him, eyes fixed on the time. 11:08 p.m. Right on time, the woman appeared again. But this time, something was different. She was already standing there when he checked the screen. There were no footsteps, no approach. 1 second, the street was empty. The next, she was there. Her head slowly turned toward the camera. And Armin swore. Even through the black and white CCTV feed, her eyes glowed brighter than ever before. He couldn't sleep that night. The voice repeated over and over again in his head. "Please help me before they come." They? Who were they? The next morning, strange things started happening. His shop's front door had black dust near the base, even though he hadn't opened it. His phone wallpaper had changed to static. He didn't do it. His plants inside the shop had wilted overnight. And worst of all, the mirror in the bathroom had a handprint on it. A small, glowing blue handprint. But he lived alone. That evening, he made a decision. He would try to talk to her again. Not from inside. Not through the shutter. He would go outside. As the clock moved toward 11 p.m., Armin put on his jacket and stepped outside. The air was cooler than usual. Silent. Too silent. Even the dogs in the alley weren't barking tonight. He waited, and at 11:08 p.m., just like always, she appeared. She walked slowly toward the shop, not looking at him. She lay down and closed her eyes. Armin stepped closer. "Can you hear me?" he asked softly. She didn't respond. He tried again. "Are you hurt? Why are you here?" Still nothing. But then her hand moved slightly. Not toward him, toward the shutter. She touched it. A tiny spark jumped from her fingers. The metal hissed, like it was boiling water, and turned dark again for a few seconds. He stepped back. "What are you?" And that's when it happened. She opened her eyes, slowly, and without moving her mouth, Armin heard the voice again, louder this time. Inside his head, "They're watching. You open the path. You must not open the door again." He froze. He hadn't told anyone about opening the door. No one had seen him do it. No one except her. His voice shook. "Who's watching?" She blinked slowly, then whispered again, without speaking. "Not from this world." And with that, she closed her eyes again. Armin backed away, hands shaking. He ran inside, locked the shutter, and sat on the floor. His heart was racing. His mind was spinning. He tried to convince himself it was just fear, just dreams, just imagination. But then his computer turned on by itself. A message appeared on the screen, typed out letter by letter. "You have been marked." He stood there, frozen, eyes wide, mouth dry. He looked at the screen, then at the shutter, then back at the screen. And just as the message finished, all the lights went out. Total silence. Total darkness. And then a soft knock on the shutter. Once, twice, 3 times. Then silence again. The door unlocked itself. Armin didn't touch it. He didn't move. But at exactly 11:08 p.m., the shop door made a soft click and slowly creaked open. The lock had turned on its own. He stood frozen in place, heart pounding like a drum inside his chest. He had only thought about opening the door tonight. He hadn't planned to do it. But now it stood open, wide enough for her to come in. Outside, the woman stood still. Her head slowly turned toward the open doorway. For the first time, her feet moved, and she walked forward. 1 step, 2, 3, and then she crossed the doorway. As soon as her foot touched the shop floor, every light went out. The fans stopped spinning. The radio stopped buzzing. Even the CCTV cameras turned off with a soft click. Total silence. Total darkness. But somehow Armin could still see her. Faint blue light glowed from her skin, just beneath the surface, like something was alive inside her. She looked around the shop slowly, her eyes scanning the shelves, the walls, the ceiling. She wasn't curious. She was searching. Armin finally found the courage to speak. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice trembling. She turned to face him, and without moving her lips, he heard the answer in his mind. "Not from here." Her gaze stopped at the mirror on the wall, the same mirror that had the glowing handprint the day before. She walked up to it and placed her palm on the glass. The mirror rippled like water and showed something else. Not Armin's reflection. Not the shop. It showed a broken city. Burned. Empty. Skies dark with smoke. And in the distance, tall, strange machines walking through the streets. Red lights scanning the ruins. Armin gasped. "What is this?" he whispered. She answered in his mind again. "A future. Your future." He stepped back. "Why are you showing me this? What do you want?" She didn't answer. Instead, she turned away from the mirror and walked to the center of the shop. Then she said, out loud for the very first time, "This place is wrong." Her voice was soft, metallic, and echoed slightly, like it didn't fully belong in this world. She looked at the floor and crouched down. Right under the center of the shop, she tapped the tiles with her fingers. Tap, tap, tap. Armin stared in disbelief. He had walked on that floor every day for 5 years. He thought he knew every corner. But then, she pressed her palm flat on the ground, and a piece of the tile glowed and slid open silently. A small square panel beneath. A hidden hatch. Armin stepped forward, trying to look inside. The space beneath was filled with soft blue light. "What is this? I didn't know this was here." The woman stood slowly and looked at him again. "It was always here, waiting." Armin's head spun with questions. "How do you know this?" "Because I've been here before." "What do you mean?" She tilted her head slightly. "I've died here before." That sentence broke something inside Armin. He stepped back again, breathing heavily. "I don't understand. What are you?" She looked up, eyes glowing brighter. "I'm not the danger, but I am the warning." Before he could speak again, a loud beep came from the hatch. A light inside had turned red. The woman looked at it and whispered, "It's waking up." "What is?" Armin asked. She looked at him, serious. "The signal." Armin stared at the hatch, then back at her. "Is this why you came here?" "Yes. To stop what's coming." Then she added something that made Armin's blood turn cold. "But now that the door is open, they can find me." Outside, the wind started to howl. The shop windows rattled. And the CCTV monitor, still dead, suddenly flickered back to life. But the screen didn't show the street anymore. It showed a black sky, with something moving through the stars. A long, sharp ship, silent, watching, and coming closer. She had no heartbeat. Armin checked twice, then a third time. Still nothing. The woman lay on the shop floor, eyes closed, her skin pale and almost shining in the dark. She had collapsed after touching the glowing hatch beneath the floor. He had rushed to her, shaken her gently, called her again and again. But there was no response. She was cold, but not like a dead body. Her skin was cold like smooth glass. Armin placed his ear close to her chest. There was no heartbeat, no breath. But then, suddenly, a soft hum started, very low, like a machine turning on from deep inside her. Her chest began to glow. A faint, steady blue pulse, beating slowly. Not a human heartbeat. Something else. Armin backed away, heart pounding. What had he let into his shop? What had he let into his world? The hatch behind her was still open, glowing softly. But now, the red light was flashing faster. Whatever was down there, it was active. He turned back to the woman. Her hand had slipped out of her coat sleeve. That's when he saw it clearly. Pattern. Not a tattoo. Not veins. A thin network of glowing lines, moving just beneath her skin like living circuits. Like a map. Or code. And suddenly, he understood one terrifying thing. She wasn't human. At that moment, her eyes opened. She didn't sit up. Didn't move. She just stared at the ceiling and spoke with her mind. It's waking up faster than I expected. Armin stepped closer. You said you've died here before, he whispered. What does that mean? She blinked slowly. I've come here many times. In many forms. Each time I try to shut the signal down. Each time, I fail. He shook his head. But why here? Why my shop? She sat up slowly, looking around. Because the machine was buried beneath this ground long before your kind built walls around it. You just built your life on top of something ancient. Armin looked at the hatch again. The red light now pulsed like a heartbeat. What is it? Her face darkened. It's a signal beacon. It sends a pulse into deep space. A message. To who? He asked. She looked at him. To destroyers. Outside, thunder cracked, but the sky was still clear. The air around the shop had changed. Felt thinner, sharper, as if something invisible was pressing down. The woman stood up slowly. Armin noticed something strange. Her feet didn't make a sound. Not even a step. No, wait. She walked to the counter and placed her hand on the wooden surface. Instantly, a blue hologram appeared. A rotating image of Earth with red marks blinking in several places. Armin pointed at them. What are those? She looked him in the eye. Other signals. Other doors. Other people like you, who also opened them. He stared at the red lights. There were more than 10. What happens when all of them wake up? She didn't speak. But the hologram of Earth started to crack. Explosions. Fires. Darkness. That was the answer. Armin felt like he couldn't breathe. He grabbed the edge of the counter. There has to be a way to stop it, right? She nodded once. There is, but it comes with a cost. What cost? She said nothing, just looked at him with eyes full of sadness. Eyes that glowed like stars, but seemed far older than time. Suddenly, the screen behind the counter turned on. Static. Then a single word typed itself on the screen. Identified. The woman's body tensed. The blue glow around her flickered. They found me, she whispered. Who? Armin asked. Her voice was softer now. Tired. The ones who built me. Armin felt dizzy. You're a machine? She looked at him calm. No. I'm something between life and machine. My body was built. But my mind was once human. He stared at her in disbelief. You were human? She nodded slowly. A long time ago, before the first signal, before Earth changed. Suddenly, the lights exploded above them. Pop, 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 glass raining down. From outside, a deep humming sound began. Not from the sky, from beneath. The hatch was shaking now. A low, deep voice echoed from the open hole. Robotic, ancient, unauthorized unit detected. Lockdown in progress. The woman turned to Armin. This is your last chance to leave. He shook his head. Not without answers. She looked at him for a long moment, then said, Then prepare yourself. Because this is only the beginning. The shop disappeared. Not slowly. Not with warning. Just gone. One moment Armin was standing behind the counter. The next, the walls faded. The shelves vanished. And the ground beneath him turned to ash. Now he was somewhere else. A silent place. A broken place. The sky above was red and filled with smoke. The air tasted like metal. All around him stood buildings. Shattered, twisted, burned to black skeletons. The wind carried no sound, except one, a deep, steady thumping, like something huge marching. Armin turned around. The woman was standing next to him, but she looked different now. Her coat was gone. Her skin was glowing fully, blue and white lines covering her face like a circuit map. Her eyes were brighter, not warm, but wild. "This is Earth," she said, her voice echoing. He whispered, "When?" "Not long from now," she answered. In the distance, a light appeared in the smoke. Then another. Then many. Machines. Tall, insect-like creatures of metal. 6 legs. Long heads. Red eyes scanning the streets. They moved in groups slowly like hunters. "Who are they?" Armin asked, frozen in place. "The ones who answered the signal," she said. "They don't speak. They don't negotiate. They only search and destroy." He turned to her. "And you've seen this before?" "I've lived it," she said quietly. "Many times. In many timelines." Suddenly the ground shook. A massive explosion in the distance lit up the ruins. A tower, maybe once a city center, fell in flames. Armin covered his face. Heat swept past him like a storm. He shouted, "Is this what happens if we don't stop the hatch?" "No," she said. "This is what happens if we stop it too late." He looked into her eyes. "Why show me this?" "Because you're part of the timeline now. You touched the path. You opened the door. You have to understand what's coming." She raised her hand, and the sky above them changed. Now it showed space, stars glowing, moving like a living map. From far away, something large was moving toward Earth. Slowly, silently, a black ship. No windows, no lights, just shadow. Armin stared. "What is that?" She looked up. "The collector. What does it collect?" She turned to him and said something that made his stomach drop. "Life, energy, history. It drains a planet until nothing is left." Suddenly, everything around them began to collapse, the vision ending. The sky cracked like glass, the buildings shattered into pixels, and the ground turned into light. And just like that, they were back in the shop. Armin fell to the floor, shaking. He couldn't breathe. He couldn't think. "What was that?" he gasped. She stood above him, calm. "A warning." He looked up at her. "Why me?" "Because you were the first to open the door and not run." Suddenly, the red light on the hatch began flashing faster. Then came a sound. Not from outside. From deep underground. A voice. Broken. Robotic. Angry. Connection confirmed. Extraction protocol initiated. She stepped back from the hatch. Armin asked, "What does that mean?" She looked terrified for the first time. "It means they're coming now." He jumped to his feet. "Then we closed the hatch." She shook her head. "Too late. It's already sending." "Sending what?" She paused. "Coordinates. Data. Your face. Your voice. Your location." Armin's face went pale. He looked around the shop like it was no longer safe. "What do we do now?" The woman looked at him, her voice firm. "We move." "Where?" "Somewhere they can't follow." He stared at her. "Where is that?" She looked up. "Not on this planet." The floor was breathing. That's the only way Armin could describe it. He stood still, staring down at the hatch. It pulsed with light, red, then blue, then red again, like a giant heart buried beneath the ground. And it wasn't just glowing anymore. It was moving. The tiles around the hatch trembled softly. A faint, rhythmic thump-thump echoed up from below. Not loud but alive. The woman stood beside him, calm, but focused. "It's waking up," she whispered. Armin looked at her. "You said we had more time." She didn't answer. Instead, she stepped toward the hatch and crouched down. Her fingers danced across the edge, tapping, swiping, reading invisible signals. The hatch responded. Click, whir. It began to open wider, revealing a narrow metal staircase, spiraling down into pure darkness. A cold wind rose from below, and with it, a sound. Not a machine, not a voice, something in between, like a whisper made of metal. Armin hesitated. What's down there? The woman didn't look back. Something not meant for humans to find. He shook his head. Then why are we going? She stood, looked him in the eye. Because humans already found it. They just don't know what they've touched. Then she turned and stepped into the dark. Armin followed. Each step down felt colder than the last. The air grew heavy. His ears rang, like they were underwater. The walls weren't made of concrete anymore. They were smooth, metallic, humming quietly. There were no pipes, no wires, no dust. This wasn't part of the building. This was much older. After what felt like forever, the stairs ended. They stepped into a massive chamber, and Armin stopped breathing. In front of him stood a tall, black machine, at least 20 feet high, floating, humming, held in the air by nothing. Its surface was covered in glowing symbols, shifting constantly like a living language. The woman stepped forward. "This is the source," Armin whispered. "The signal." She nodded. "This machine is not from your time, not from your world. Fell here long before your cities were built. Before your ancestors made fire." He stared at it, awestruck. "But why under my shop?" "Random location," she said. "Or maybe not so random." Armin stepped closer. The hum grew louder. His chest felt tight, like something was pressing on it. As he approached the base, he saw something strange. A broken piece. A small panel ripped open with wires dangling. "Is it damaged?" he asked. She looked worried. "Yes, and that's the problem." Armin frowned. "Shouldn't that make it less dangerous?" She shook her head. "No, it makes it unstable. It's sending corrupted data and calling the wrong things." Suddenly, the chamber lights flickered, and a new voice echoed from the darkness. Cold, distant, non-human. "Signal breach confirmed. Intruders detected." Armin spun around. "Did you hear that?" The woman raised her hand. A light formed in her palm, revealing something across the wall. A second machine. Smaller, dead, rusty. But it looked just like her. Armin stepped forward, staring. "That's you." She nodded once. "One of me. A version that failed." His hands trembled. "You've done this before?" "Yes. Many timelines. Always the same result. Always this room. This moment." He turned to her. "Then why keep trying?" She looked at him, and for once her voice softened. "Because every failure teaches me something new. And because one version of you always decides to help." Suddenly, the floor shook. The large machine in the center opened its core. Inside, a swirling vortex of light formed, black, red, and purple energy circling like a storm. The woman shouted, "It's creating a gate." Armin asked, "To what?" Her answer was instant. "To them." From the vortex, something began to form. Claws, long arms, eyes glowing like stars but wrong. Too many eyes, too many voices, screaming without sound. Armin screamed, "Close it! Do something!" The woman's body lit up fully. She stepped forward, placed both hands on the machine, and screamed in a voice that was not hers. "Code. Halt Protocol 11. Override. Timeline reset." The chamber exploded with light. Everything vanished. No sound. No air. Just blinding white. And then, darkness. Armin opened his eyes. He was standing behind his shop counter. The hatch was gone. No glow. No hum. The street outside was quiet. The clock said 11:07 p.m. The woman was nowhere to be seen. But on the counter, something had been placed. A small blue cube, pulsed softly, and written beneath it, on a scrap of paper, were 5 words. "This world is not ready." The world didn't end. But Armin could feel it, the edge of it, like a clock that had almost stopped ticking. He stood behind his counter, staring at the blue cube. Pulsed like a heartbeat. Soft. Alive. Waiting. Beside it lay the note. "This world is not ready." And beneath those 5 words, written smaller, "But you are." He picked up the cube. Felt warm but not hot. It didn't hum, didn't vibrate, didn't buzz. but somehow it spoke. Not in words. In feelings. In memories. Suddenly, images flashed in Armin's mind, not his own. A desert. A battlefield. Stars falling from the sky. The woman fighting. Failing. Falling. Her body torn apart by time, rebuilt again and again. She was not just a machine. Not just a messenger. She was a guardian. And she had always come alone. Until now. The shop lights flickered again. Then went out. But Armin didn't panic this time. He knew. They were here. Outside, the sky had changed. The stars looked wrong. Closer. Sharper. Like they were watching. A low rumble came from far above. Not thunder. Not wind. Something arriving. The signal had already been sent. The countdown had begun. Armin looked at the cube. And for the first time, he knew how to use it. He stepped outside the shop. The street was empty. Time itself felt slower, like the world was holding its breath. In the sky, a black shape appeared, long and silent, like a ship made of shadow. From it, thin beams of red light scanned the ground, searching, waiting, hunting. And then the cube spoke, not with a voice, but through him. His eyes changed, glowing blue. His heartbeat synced with the cube's pulse. And in that moment he became the beacon. Not to call them, to stop them. A new voice echoed from above. Deeper, harsher, curious. Defense protocol activated. Human error detected. Another beam locked onto him. But this time it didn't burn. It froze, like it was being pulled backward. The ship trembled. A distortion rippled across the sky, like a tear in space. The cube in Armin's hand shone brighter, brighter, until, boom, a burst of light. Not destruction, ejection. The ship vanished, pulled away, vanished. The sky cleared. The stars returned. The street was still again. The cube dimmed and fell silent. Armin stood alone, sweating, breathing heavy, but safe, alive. And then, behind him, a voice. Familiar, soft. You were ready. He turned. She was there. Not the same. Not glowing. Just a woman now. Simple clothes. Barefoot. Human. Truly human. She walked up to him. Smiled. A tired, grateful smile. You changed the outcome, she said. Armin could barely speak. What happens now? She looked up at the sky. We bought time. He asked. For how long? She shrugged gently. No one knows. But long enough to prepare. She handed him something small. A ring with a soft blue dot in its center. A reminder, she said, that Earth has guardians now. And then, just like that, she turned. Walked into the empty street. And vanished into light. The next morning, everything was normal. The shop was open. Customers walked by. The air was clear. No one remembered the lights in the sky. No one asked about the cube. No one remembered her. Except Armin. He still kept the ring in his pocket. And every night, at 11:08 p.m., he looked at the door, just in case it ever opened again.